I'm standing at the back of my wedding venue in my gorgeous white dress, heart pounding, ready for my father to walk me down the aisle. The music starts, the doors open, and my dad looks at me like I'm a ghost, like I'm not supposed to be there, because I wasn't. My sister was supposed to walk down that aisle first, in a wedding dress, at my wedding. But here's the thing, we knew. And what happened next? Pure poetic justice. If you've ever had a family member who got away with everything while you got blamed for everything, if you've ever dreamed of the perfect revenge against people who treated you like garbage your entire life, hit that like button right now, subscribe, and buckle up, because this is one of the most satisfying family revenge stories you will ever hear. I promise you, the payoff is absolutely worth it. Let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand just how deep this goes. This isn't about one bad day or one mean comment. This is about an entire childhood of systematic, deliberate cruelty disguised as family. From the moment I could form memories, I knew something was wrong. I knew I was different, not special different, wrong different. The kind of different where you spend every birthday crying in your room because the cake is a flavor you hate, the same flavor your sister demanded, again. And when you finally work up the courage to remind your parents that you don't like that flavor, they look at you with genuine confusion and say they had no idea, even though this has happened every single year of your life. My sister could accuse me of anything, stealing, breaking something, being mean to her friends, and my parents would believe it instantly. No questions asked, no benefit of the doubt, just immediate punishment. Grounding, loss of privileges, sometimes even getting screamed at until I was sobbing on my bedroom floor. But when I tried to tell them something my sister did, crickets. Or worse, they'd twist it somehow to make it my fault too. Even when there was undeniable physical proof that I was telling the truth, my sister would get a slap on the wrist while I'd somehow end up grounded alongside her. Every family outing was where my sister wanted to go. Every treat was something my sister liked. Every celebration, even ones that should have been about me, somehow centered around her. She got more spending money, better curfews, more freedom, more love. I was the ghost child, the unwanted one. And somewhere deep in my bones, even as a little kid, I knew it. But things really went nuclear when we hit our teenage years. My sister, who had mostly ignored me before, suddenly found herself without friends. I don't know exactly what happened, whether they moved away, whether they finally saw through her spoiled, entitled behavior and ditched her. My parents never talked about her problems, only her achievements. But I noticed. We went to the same school. I saw her walking alone, eating lunch by herself, standing in corners at events. And me, I had friends, not a ton, but enough. I was decently popular. People liked me. I was invited to things. That's when everything changed. My sister didn't just ignore me anymore. She actively hated me. She needed to destroy me, because how dare I have something she didn't? Suddenly, I was being accused of things daily. My friends were being accused of things. My parents started forbidding me from hanging out with anyone. The excuses ranged from, "Your sister says they're not good people," to, "Why are you trying to abandon the family? Why can't you be more like your sister and enjoy family time?" I was being isolated, systematically, deliberately. My sister was weaponizing my parents against me, and they were happy to load the gun. What saved me was an accidental slip at a family gathering. My cousins invited me somewhere, and my kid self, with no filter and no ability to hide the pain anymore, said I couldn't go because I wasn't allowed to have friends since my sister didn't have any. That reached the adults, and apparently my extended family tore my parents apart. I got grounded for a month for lying, but after that, my parents gave me some leeway. They were terrified of looking bad in front of family. And my sister? She changed schools. I guess the humiliation of extended family knowing she was a social pariah was too much. My parents paid extra for a school further away. She made friends there, but she never forgave me for exposing her. The power she'd discovered, the ability to make my life miserable with just a word to our parents, she never let that go. Her cruelty evolved, got more creative, more devastating. Her friends would come over and bully me. My parents called it light teasing. I stopped inviting my friends over because my parents would be awful hosts, or my sister would accuse them of stealing, and my parents would believe it. Then I got my first boyfriend. I didn't want to bring him home. God, I didn't want to, but my parents insisted. At one point during his visit, he came to find me, looking uncomfortable. "Hey, so your sister just tried to flirt with me," he said. He described how she'd approached him in skimpy clothing, batting her eyelashes, telling him how terrible I was and how much better she was. He was weirded out and ran away to find me. I believed him immediately, not because I had so much faith in him, but because, and I know this sounds terrible, but I was a resentful, angry teenager by this point. My sister wasn't attractive. My parents were overweight. They showed love through food, and my sister was also overweight. Meanwhile, I was skinny because punishment often meant no treats or snacks. My sister was spoiled, rude, had never learned to work for anything. The idea that my boyfriend would cheat on me with her, it didn't make sense. But my parents believed her version. My sister told them my boyfriend had tried to flirt with her, and she nobly refused. They prohibited me from dating such a horrible boy. I tried to keep seeing him in secret, but it was too hard. The relationship died. It happened again. Another boyfriend, same accusation from my sister, same belief from my parents, same Romeo and Juliet situation that killed the relationship. When I pointed out the pattern, my parents decided that meant I had terrible judgment and kept picking bad boyfriends. They used it as proof that I couldn't be trusted. My sister brought home one boyfriend during all this. My parents paraded him around, constantly telling me how good he was. Why couldn't I find someone like that? Why couldn't I be more like my sister? Then he stopped showing up, and suddenly he was a conniving bastard who tricked my sister. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. Time crawled forward, and my sister's high school graduation approached. She got accepted to a college, not a prestigious one, no scholarships. Her grades were terrible. I know because whenever she got a B, we celebrated like she'd cured cancer. Meanwhile, I consistently got good grades, and my parents refused to acknowledge them, saying, "What's there to celebrate? You always get those." My parents told her they'd pay for everything, full ride, tuition, room, board, spending money, everything. I was relieved she'd be gone. Not that it made my life easier. She came home every other weekend, and somehow stuff was missing from her room, or she'd invent some other crisis to make my life hell. Then my mom sat me down about my impending graduation. I'm only a year younger than my sister. "Since we're paying for your sister's college, we don't have money for yours," she said, not even trying to sound apologetic. "It would be better for you to start working right after graduation. Maybe after your sister finishes, we can see if we can afford something for you. Oh, and if you decided to stay home while working, you'd have to pay rent, bills, and all your own expenses, of course." I pointed out student loans existed. My mom said yes, I could get loans, but because they cared about me so much and I had such bad judgment, they would need to approve whether a college was worth me going into debt for. I'm still not sure how they plan to enforce that, but I didn't ask. Here's the thing, I didn't bat an eyelid. I just said, okay. My mom looked shocked. She clearly expected me to throw a tantrum so they'd have an excuse to never pay for my college at all. But I gave her nothing, just calm acceptance and gratitude. My dad tried the same approach later, same response from me. Because I had been preparing for this my entire life. I knew they would never pay for my education. I knew they'd find an excuse. I couldn't go out much. I didn't have many friends, so I'd spent years studying because I saw college as my only escape, my only chance of freedom. And when the time came, I got a full scholarship. Not to Harvard or anything, but a good program, decent college, full ride. Knowing my sister would try to stop me through my parents, I posted about it on social media at the exact same time I told them. I even forced myself to thank them in the post. Now they couldn't forbid me from going without explaining to extended family why not. They tried anyway. Let it slip that my sister was doing poorly in college, and since she was smarter and had better judgment, I'd do even worse. I didn't budge. College saved my life. I was happy for the first time I could remember. I still contacted my parents, visited on holidays, but since they refused to pay for anything, I could excuse not visiting often due to money. I avoided introducing any man to them. Meanwhile, my sister dropped out of college without graduating, moved back home paying zero rent or bills, and got a job at the same company as my mom thanks to her pulling strings. My parents sold this as a source of pride. Then I met my husband, and everything changed. You know those people who say, if I were in that situation, I would have said something? My husband actually does. I'm the person who's a doormat in the moment, then can't sleep at night wishing I'd thought of something witty to say. I'm the person who cries when I'm angry. My husband is the guy who claps back immediately, devastatingly. He loves drama in the sense that he loves to resolve it, to win it, to destroy people who deserve it. If he doesn't immediately respond to a slight, you should start worrying because he's not letting it go. He's planning something worse. People were baffled we got together, but just because I was incapable of acting like him didn't mean I didn't love watching him do it. He treated people well as long as they did the same. When we got engaged, we decided we didn't care much about an elaborate ceremony. We'd rather spend money on a dream honeymoon to Europe. We'd do a simple wedding in my hometown since most of my family was still concentrated there. We sent out engagement announcements and saved the dates. That's when my parents demanded to meet him. I wanted to refuse, but was struggling to find my spine. The distance had made me think maybe they weren't so bad. My husband, on the other hand, looked like I'd canceled Christmas when I said I'd make sure they were never alone with him. He'd been preparing. He'd even bought a high-quality recorder to hide in his pocket. He was excited, imagining all the ways he could refuse my sister's advances, insult her, record it all, and then spread it to my family. So he went alone to meet them and came back euphoric. "Babe, babe, you won't believe the awful shit they wanted. Babe, we can fuck them over so bad." He was smart enough to explain before showing me the recording so I wouldn't misunderstand. What happened was this. Instead of my sister trying to flirt with him, my parents and sister sat him down. After some grumbling about not being okay with him, about my judgment, they made their demand. They were willing to pay for my wedding on one condition. My sister would walk down the aisle at my wedding first, in a wedding dress. Their excuses? It wasn't okay for a younger sister to marry first, so it was only fair that my sister got the experience of walking down the aisle at my venue with pictures in a wedding dress with her own cake later. My husband's brain short-circuited. Even he, the master of comebacks, was stunned into silence by the sheer audacity. But then something whispered in his soul, "String them along." He told them he needed to think about it, needed to see how I'd react, and left before he could give away his plans. When my husband told me, I was shocked. The distance had softened my memories. I thought even they wouldn't go this far, but my husband's focus on revenge helped me avoid spiraling into a dark headspace. We had a blast brainstorming ways to screw them over, from ridiculously outlandish to feasible. We called my husband's level-headed brother to run our best idea by him. 2 venue addresses, give them the wrong one, etc. He scolded us, showed us it'd be hard to pull off, and that some ideas could get us sued. So we settled on the most benign plan. Act like we agreed, hire security, and don't let my sister in. Obviously, if that was all, it wouldn't be pro-revenge. My husband went back to my parents, said he'd probed and I wouldn't be down with it. However, he didn't see the issue, and wanting to help keep the family together would help them do it. He pointed out I don't like conflict. If I was surprised with it publicly, I might not throw a tantrum in front of everyone. On the other hand, marriage is a big thing, so who knows if I'd lash out. His suggestion: a compromise. They'd help pay for the wedding. That way I'd feel even more pressure to stay quiet. Not only would we be public, but I'd be grateful for their help. My parents looked surprised. My grown adult sister started skipping with joy, literally skipping like a child. They accepted. My husband claimed due to my bad judgment in boyfriends in the past, using their own words against them, I was distrustful and controlling. I liked to check his phone to make sure he wasn't cheating. As such, nothing about this plan could be put in writing. For any discussion about my sister walking down the aisle, he'd come to their house to talk in person. And so began months of beautiful, elaborate deception. My parents wanted input on everything. Of course they did. Some things that mattered to me, like songs and color palette, my husband convinced them to let go to keep me in line, but everything else was game. Here's what we did. We'd go check out, say, drink and menu options. We'd accept the lowest or second lowest priced option. My husband would then secretly take my sister to try the same options, then sigh and say it was a pity we didn't want to abuse my parents' goodwill, so we weren't getting the best. Cue my sister demanding my parents pay for the most expensive options. My parents would then tell me not to worry, they'd cover the upgrade. Same with the photographer, same with everything. Flowers. My husband handed my sister a bouquet of the flowers we actually wanted, then sadly told her I wanted some other tasteless flowers. Cue my parents insisting we use the flowers we actually wanted, and they'd pay for it. The wedding dress hit a snag. My parents wanted me to wear a hideous dress. We'd planned to say yes, then not use it, but my mom sent me a message about it, creating written proof. I had to refuse via text and stand my ground. My husband went over and said he'd see what he could do. My sister suggested ruining my desired dress so I'd be forced to wear the other one. He pretended to agree. Throughout all this, they kept communications off text. We ensured this by having me reply whenever my sister tried messaging my husband, solidifying the "I'm controlling and neurotic" narrative he was building. My husband would go around talking badly about me to my family, and honestly, as someone who's been a doormat her whole life, the thought of being painted as this controlling, dangerous woman was hilarious to me. I egged him on. My sister did try to flirt with him. He acted conflicted. He'd pretend to tell them things without my knowledge, but he never told them we hired security. It was surreal. My husband and I, who had genuinely considered a courthouse wedding to save money for our honeymoon, were having this extravagant, expensive wedding and barely spending a dime. We called it back pay for emotional damages. My husband was enjoying the deception more than planning our actual wedding. I'd never seen a guy beam at the thought of spending his entire Saturday driving to his in-laws to discuss wedding details, but there he was, living his best revenge life. The day arrived. The plan my parents, sister, and husband had devised, wait until everyone was seated. Since brides always arrive late, my sister would show up at that precise moment to avoid me seeing her and walk down the aisle. By the time I heard what happened, it would be too late. As for my dress, my husband had saved leftover fabric from my alterations, showed it to my parents as proof he'd ruined my dress, then said he had to go calm me down. We kept our security hidden at first. As guests and my parents arrived, they only saw a woman with a list checking names. Only after my parents were seated did we bring out the real security, a guy who looked like a bodyguard. We told him not to allow my sister in and agreed to pay a handsome tip if he didn't reveal we'd given that order. The time came. My parents got a text that my sister was less than 5 minutes. My dad told people to start. My bridesmaids, who'd been instructed to follow his lead, obeyed without checking with me. They all went down the aisle and took their places. My dad stood at the entrance, waiting for my sister, not me. A friend not in the wedding party, my husband's friend who loved stirring drama as much as he did, texted me to get ready. We'd arranged this specifically so if my husband or bridesmaids took out phones, people wouldn't notice. As soon as my dad took his position, the bridal song started. The doors opened, and I walked in. The look on my dad's face, I'll never forget it. He looked at me like a ghost, like I wasn't supposed to exist in that moment. He tried glancing behind me, but you can't see the venue entrance from where we were standing. Then his phone rang. I saw the caller ID. My sister. He just left, abandoned me at the entrance of my own wedding with a mumbled, "Something came up." Gasps rippled through the crowd, confusion, shock, whispers starting to build. The friend in on our plan loudly asked, "What happened?" I lied in a teary voice. He said it wasn't supposed to be me here. That's not what he actually said, but my husband and I had agreed that if my dad dared leave me there, I should say that to make him look as terrible as possible. And the tears? I wish I could say it was acting, but no. Despite everything, some small, damaged part of me didn't think he'd actually do it, didn't think it was real, thought maybe it was an elaborate joke. I don't know. I was hurt, still am, so the tears were real. The friend shouted, "What did he mean it shouldn't be you?" making sure as many people as possible could hear. Then, "I'll go check," and ran off. We'd planned this to make her create chaos with security and prevent my dad from coming back to stop the ceremony. At some point, my mom left too. My husband's dad quickly ran over and took my arm. We'd forewarned him he might need to step in. Watching him desperately run to me to save me from that moment helped me smile. I walked down the aisle to a symphony of whispers as people discussed what just happened. Some apparently left to investigate, but when I reached my husband, all was well. He made me feel better, joking that my sad face was so real I deserved an Oscar, and not to worry, he'd rake them over the coals for what they did. We got married without a hitch. My parents didn't come back. I noticed a lot of people leaving, then returning during the reception, but no one told me what was happening. Someone whispered in my husband's ear. He went out, came back after a while with a thunderous expression, then whispered he needed to hide before he broke character and started smiling. Here's what happened outside, pieced together from friends, family, the security guard, and my husband. My sister arrived in a wedding dress. The security refused entry. Per our agreement, he claimed she must have the wrong venue because there was already a bride inside. My dad arrived and tried threatening him with the police, claiming he'd never heard of him, so he couldn't be legitimate. The security agreed to call the police since he was hired by us and doing his job. My dad realized it'd be too late by then and demanded he let my sister in. That's when the friend arrived and started shouting, asking what was going on, insulting my sister, stalling, creating a scene. My mom soon arrived, then other people. The wedding plan was dead. All my parents could do now was damage control, as everyone who learned about their scheme was aghast, screaming, berating them. The three naturally said it wasn't a secret and threw my husband under the bus. My husband was summoned. He put on his best look of confusion and denied everything. Gaslit, gate-kept, and girl-bossed, as he said. He denied ever agreeing to something so ridiculous. He denied ever agreeing to something so messed up. He tore into them about being awful parents, said he wasn't going to let their lying ruin his wedding, and came back to me. No one believed them. The venue had cameras but wouldn't share footage except for security purposes, but some people filmed parts of it. Watching my parents and sister get ripped apart by everyone who came to check on the drama was delicious. After years of being accused and not believed, watching them get a taste of their own medicine was one of the best wedding gifts I could have received. My mother was crying. My dad kept changing from purple to white with rage. My sister was still on the floor, crying and screaming. They kept insisting my husband was in on it. People kept asking, "Why would your husband agree? Why is there no proof? Why did you want to do this at her wedding?" They had no good answers. Eventually, they were told to leave. My dad had to physically drag my sister up off the ground. People said nothing to me all night. They wanted to spare me, I think, and maybe because I was the bride for once, not just a guest, everyone made extra effort to be nice, positive, and excited. My husband jokes all the expensive food and drinks we made my parents pay for certainly helped people's moods. We had a blast. My husband maintained his forced angry face for a short while before breaking into smiles again. After that, we went to the hotel to sleep before our honeymoon. Oh, and my parents had tried to pay for our plane tickets, but we thought that was risky. They could cancel them or something, so we refused. Since the wedding, all three have tried to contact me. I refused calls because my husband insisted on keeping a paper trail. Smart move, because my sister eventually messaged me. The message was unhinged, barely coherent, but the important parts? She blamed me for her humiliation, called my husband a two-faced snake who fooled them for months. My husband wants to print that and put it on our wall. She hoped, with certain even, that I'd get cheated on by him. She even suggested he was already cheating on me with her. My husband took my phone, screenshotted the call logs, screenshotted my sister's unhinged message, screenshotted messages from my parents demanding I answer the phone, and sent it all to my family group chat. He also screenshotted messages they'd sent him where they called him names and threatened him, but he kept up the "you're delusional, I never agreed to anything" act, even threatened to sue them for defamation and harassment. Then he wrote a message in the family group chat, begged my family for help, said I was being harassed constantly by them, begged family to help stop them from trying to ruin my honeymoon now that they'd failed to ruin my wedding. Then he finished with a request. Don't share our locations. We wouldn't want my parents sending my sister to our honeymoon suite and then claiming he'd somehow agreed to pretend to sleep with her there. My family assured him they'd take care of it. And since then, silence. My husband is a little disappointed my sister didn't disobey so he could tattle again while tearing her apart, but we'll see. Obviously, I would have preferred to have a normal, loving family at my wedding, but at least for once in my life, they not only failed to ruin something meaningful to me, I got them back. After a lifetime of being the scapegoat, the unwanted one, the one who could never do anything right, I finally won, and it felt incredible. If this story gave you the justice chills, absolutely smash that like button. And tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? Have you ever had family members who treated you like the black sheep? How did you handle it? And of course, subscribe for more stories exactly like this, because karma is beautiful when it's served cold, calculated, and in front of everyone. I'll see you in the next one.